Hello one, hello all, it's the gothiest ghost of them all, Caspa in the flesh, and it's time for a review of Adrianne Lenker, Bright Future. Adrianne Lenker is a Minnesotan singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and this is her latest album. We last heard from her in a solo respect with her last album, Songs, which definitely found beauty and simplicity with great songwriting, and I absolutely loved it. And while we do get simplicity again on some tracks this time around, we're also getting more development with these tracks, a little bit more layers than what we got on the last one. And I would say creatively, when it comes to the songwriting, Adrianne Lenker has really outdone herself. With the lyrical, poetic heartbreak of something Stevie Nicks would do with Fleetwood Mac, the eccentricity of Dylan, the endearing twang of Dolly Parton, and instrumentally I'm getting an influence of Elliott Smith or Phil Elverum of Mount Erie, along with some really pleasant surprises, such as the homespun version of one of Big Thief's singles that I absolutely loved, and in fact made my top 5 of favorite singles of the year, Vampire Empire. And I'm really not quite sure why this landed on her solo album, but I'm absolutely glad that it did. And I do love the different execution of this. So while the vocals are more naked and the mix is more naked, there's definitely more instrumentation to be shown here to catch the ear, with its raw string section, which makes the pain of the toxicity that Adrianne is enduring here during this toxic, unfortunate relationship. It just makes it more intense and tangible, even if she's not screaming her brains out like she did on the non-album version. And the instrumentation gives it a beauty to contrast the ugly situation that this is portraying. And another homespun track, Already Lost, has this beautiful, gentle finger picking, plucked banjo strings with a lo-fi recording. It really gives it a warm, intimate feeling with these harmonious group vocals, beautiful melodies that has me just instantly in adoration. Also, Sadness is a Gift, which probably has the most beautiful string section on this whole entire album, which makes for one of the most heart-wrenching cuts on this album, with the most mesmerizing chorus, again a gorgeous string section, and I love how the weeping strings just give it such a majestic feel. And as I alluded to earlier with Adrianne and her lyrical capability, she definitely showcases that, and this is definitely one of those tracks that proves it, with the symbolic signs of a relationship that did not work out in her favor, but she still holds admiration for this person that she lost, and I feel that this person probably reciprocates the emotions that Adrianne is giving, while simultaneously they had so much hope and confidence it would work. Unfortunately, it didn't. It's a very romantically tragic track, and her lyrical correlations and poeticism is absolutely stunning. And we also get these immensely sad piano ballads, like the opener, Real House, which probably has the most tear-jerking opener to an album I've probably heard all year, with these piano melodies that are so somber, meditative, but also haunting at the same time, as she is speaking for her mother, and everything just correlates so well. It ties in together so well as she is speaking on her dreams and aspirations as a child in moving into the new house, and also having these fears of death, and also drawing a parallel to when she went to the hospital and her mother held her, and then the first time seeing her cry is when her dog passed away, which was the first time she ever saw her mother cry, and holding her the same way that she held her, and both getting a needle, except the needle was to help her, while the needle the dog took was to put the dog down, which was the only way they got the family back together. It's definitely such a crushing track, but also a poetically genius track at the same time, which how everything just ties together so well. And it really shows that Adrianne has not lost her tangible touch with the songwriting by a long shot. And with the dog, I was honestly curious because there was talk of a dog that bit her on the last album, but no connection whatsoever. Different dog, everybody, different dog. And there's also Evol, which has these swaying piano chords that create this haunting lullaby-like progression with these somber strings underneath, which is probably the most darkest track lyrically on this whole album, as Adrianne's weary melodic vocals showcase this genius display of reversing these words backwards that evoke feeling but also evoke pain at the same time once they are reversed backwards. Love spells evil, backwards people, words backwards are lethal. Time spells emit, who can see it? Feel says leaf, tip ease is sea spit. It's just geniusly constructed, and she is forming these deeper meanings within these words that are the root to her pain, and it's just tragically genius, as she is displaying her immensely emotive lyrics of betrayal. And the song No Machine, which probably has the most blissful set of instrumentation on here, that shares a gorgeous ode to a partner with this ongoing intimacy and feeling and connection with this person, and just feeling at a loss if ever they were to lose this person. It's one of those tracks where you do find beauty and simplicity, as Adrianne has been known to do. And there are tracks on here where instrumentally I do admire the melody. I wouldn't really say anything on here is offensively bad, but I do feel there is the track Fool, which not a bad track by itself, but kind of an odd fit for the album, as it takes more of an electronic approach, and with this being the only electronic style track on here, it doesn't really fit too well within the stripped back or lo-fi, or I would say the darkness of this album. It kind of sounds like it would have came from the last Big Thief album, which is great, but for some reason I feel with this being so electronic and so upbeat, it doesn't really correlate well with the overall feeling of this album. Nor do I think it has a compelling end or build, and unfortunately there are tracks on here that do suffer the same fate, such as Candle Flame, which probably has one of the most uneventful finishes to the whole entire album, which unfortunately doesn't really have a strong structure, really much of a strong build. The hook is nice, but it's definitely the weakest track on here. And the song Free Treasure, I think instrumentally is beautiful, although I do feel it fizzles out before it really gets started. But the rest of the album is continual fire. And we're also getting older tracks, which would probably explain why we're getting the homespun tracks on this album, and really shows that you could put on an album tracks that may be old to the artist but new to the listener. And I feel they do that very effectively on here, especially when the songwriting is this good. Like the song Cell Phone Says, that shows Adrianne's lyrical prowess once again, about someone striving to reach out to you, except the more I listen to this track, the more I feel this is from someone who's passed on and is trying to reach out to Adrianne, and just the whole overall lyrical progression, it leads me to believe this is someone from the great beyond trying to connect with Adrianne, but not batting 1,000. And there's also Donut Seam, which is another clever metaphorical play on words like donut seam, where we get these metaphors revolving around a donut, which is a beautiful romantic story correlating to a donut that shares how this love gives life, gives purpose. But of course there is an ending, and when you pay attention to the symbolic change of pace, it turns into a different story, but it's still a great one. And Nick Hakim coming on here with these beautiful ghostly vocals that are a dead ringer for Sufjan Stevens. But in a tasteful way. It's cute, it's clever, it's sad, and I truly love it. And there's the closer that's so beautiful and ceremonious, with how atmospheric and murky the instrumentation is, and it has this stillness to it, where even though it is a song of a love where every time this person comes around, Adrianne is broken and certainly an emotional wreck, and you could tell there is a longing for each other. There could be another part of this that I'm missing, but due to the premise, it does kind of sound like it's either coming from a healing place or a problematic place. Like, Adrianne's lyrics are very clever, but they're also very cryptic at the same time. But that, I feel, is the beauty of this album. It's a very beautiful, well-put album where I would say instrumentally there's definitely more layers here this time around. Lyrically, she is diving more deep this time around and being more clever with the lyrics this time around. Not to take anything from Songs. I thought Songs was great, but on here, Adrianne is really pushing herself. I do wish it was a bit longer. I do wish there were some tracks here that weren't really odd fit or didn't really fizzle out. But other than that, this album is great. It's beautiful. It's well put together. And an outstanding job lyrically and instrumentally compelling. I'm feeling a 4 black hearts out of 5 on this album. If you've given this a listen, what did you think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And that's it. Caspa, Gothic Ghost, Adrianne Lenker, Bright Future. Till we meet again.